Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to create a data file for your custom dancers for Persona mod. So basically, I developed this new system for developers to generate new notes for their songs. Whereas before it used to just be a randomly generated system that runs when the dancer first spawns. It was a pretty shitty system, so I thought, what if I tried actually getting data from the music itself and converting it to something that can be used as notes. And so with the help of BizClaw, person who created Fallout Resurgence, post-nuke, it's gone by quite a few names, I was able to create this little built-in system that will do just that. Detect the sound frequencies, gather data, and then you pick which one you like the best. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is go to your Persona Dance menu and make sure developer tools are enabled. These tools are only available to admins, or if you're in single player, obviously you. You want to make sure that's enabled. So, this second option here, FFT channel check. Basically, this is the frequency channel that you choose for this system to look at. Because each frequency is going to be completely different for every song and every tick of the song. So, the default is 128, which was literally just the midpoint. You can leave it there if you want. I usually bring it, I'm trying to remember, I usually put it at about here, 90-ish. But that's only if you're checking one channel, and I'll get to checking all the channels here in a second. Advantages to checking one channel. Well, I mean, if you chose the channel, chances are you looked at the FFT chart and saw that the channel was averaged out, nothing crazy, nothing too little. Cons. It takes a fuck ton of time to check each channel and get the appropriate results that you want. For the longest time, I only had the single channel check, and it was just annoying. So, on to the next thing. Check all FFT channels. I recommend you have this enabled. So what this does is it checks every frequency of the song, stores all that data, and then if you choose to save that data after it's checked it all, actually I'll get to that in a bit, but basically you would be running a function that returns the average, the average of each frequency that it checked, and then you just pick that one that you want. It stores it in a table you can read, and then it saves it as the data file that the dancer will be using. Now, it's important that if you're going to be using the check all FFT channels option, that you do that extra bit of work at the end, or else it's going to error out. Because that big ass file that it saves when it checks all the channels, it cannot be read by the base itself. It needs your eyes to look at it. And the reason why I created a little function for checking what's saved from the check all option is because a lot of text editor programs will just straight up crash if you try to open the file, because it gets pretty big depending on your settings. Alright, anywho, FFT channel check strength. So basically, this kind of ties into the math that I put together for my system. The higher the number is basically, if the number that you set is high, it's gonna be less likely to add a frequency that it detects into the data. The lower the number, the more likely it is to add the data. Now this isn't a math.random, this is just comparing numbers and checking to see, hey, is this too much or too little? Alright, so there's one character I haven't generated a DAT file for, and that's Fuka. So for the sake of this video, we're going to do her as the example. Now, one thing to note is that when you are using these sliders and the check all option, you can only change them on the preview screen for the dancer, or obviously right now because it's not spawned in. You can try to change it while it's doing its work, but it's not actually going to be changing anything because it's going to detect, hey, if I change this right now, it's probably going to break. I'm going to ignore that change this idiot just did. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn down the volume. Okay, so when I was testing earlier, her stuff is so weird. For her, I really need to up this strength bar, because even at 1111, the average amount of entries for the channels were getting up to 3,000. Alright, so we have all this set. We're going to be checking all the FFT channels. Let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see, the developer GUI has popped up. You don't really have to worry about this. It's just a little information for me and I guess anyone else who understands it. Now, as you can see, even though we have check all FFT channels enabled, say if we didn't, you can see this bar near her right arm is actually rainbow colored. So whatever you have your FFT channel check set to, it's gonna highlight that bar just for the little visual so you can see which one you're actually checking. But since we have it set to check all FFT channels, it's actually checking all of them. So as you can see, the average is getting pretty high. It's nothing insane. This is about what it's at for most of the other dancers. By this point, last test, it was at 3,000, so we're making good strides. Alright, so we're back. It's not finished, but if you look at that average, that is terrifying. It kind of picked up right in the center of the song. So we're going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to adjust our settings again. Make sure that's enabled. I'm going to bring this up to 2,000. Alright, so we're not done yet. I did just want to talk about some keynotes. So, when you're checking the average, like right now the number's quite a bit high, but what I'm hoping is that despite it being high, the number that we want is in the data file. And when I'm checking for entries, I usually want the entries to be between 600 to 900 for what would be an average song, between 3 to 4 minutes long. And another note, don't do what I just did. Okay, so when you finish a song, the FFT data is temporarily stored to like actually save the data so we can take a look at it. You need to press E, and your game is gonna freeze for like 10 seconds, and then it'll say, hey, it got saved. So I'm gonna redo that, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so we're gonna make sure we press E this time. So there we go, save 256 FFT entries. That will always say that. If it doesn't, then you fucked up. So now we can actually delete the dancer. And what you'd want to do is you want to put this function into your console. You want to type lua_run and paste that in there. Don't worry about second ID, that's more so for the internal base to use. The second argument, file name. So what you want to do is just go up here in your console. You can see from when it saved it, there was a print that also says the same thing, except it also has the file directory. So you want to save the first part of the file name, not the DAT part. Put it in quotes inside as the argument. Press enter. Here it displays our averages. Okay, thank God. We actually got one that looks decent. So, frequency 128 had 787 entries. It's right where we want it. So now what we want to do is go to this one, copy it, and type lua_run, put that in there. Now we put the file name again, so dance_time. And for the reTblID, this time we need to put 128. So as you can see in the code itself, this is calling this frequency table that we have, 128, and it's gonna override the data file that we are already reading from with only the data from that frequency table. So be aware, once you press enter after doing this, that whole giant file that we created is going to get deleted and is instead going to be replaced with this single frequency table, which is what we want. So go ahead and press enter. And as you can see, it saved it and it printed out our frequencies, or our times. So this is a whole lot of mumbo jumbo that you can just ignore if you want. Go ahead and type clear in our console. And now the base should automatically load that data. Let's go ahead and try it out. Let's actually turn off developer mode first. And you'll be able to tell if it actually worked, because you won't have shitty notes that are just slugging around that were automatically generated using the old system. So this is the new system. They start after about 5 seconds, but I think in the table it was around here. Yep, see, there we go. Looks already a lot better, you know, it's not slow, sluggish, automatically generated ones. These were generated using frequencies from the song itself. Now, I recommend that you go over this more than once, like maybe 2 or 3 times, just to be sure. Just make copies of your tested out data files. And yeah, as you can see, for the most part, these notes will synchronize with the song depending on if you got appropriate data or not. That's why I say you should always test and try more than once. Like, see, yeah, that probably needs to be regenerated. But I'm not going to do that in this video because this is already long enough that I have to edit. So, I hope you guys learned something. I hope anyone who's developing any dancers for Persona Mod, that they use this tool to their advantage. And yeah, if I make any more nifty features, I'll be sure to make videos about them. The update featuring these developer tools and new features and whatnot will be out in about a week, maybe. We'll see. There's not too much to be done. I am changing a lot of file system in the mod right now, and the last part that really needs to be changed is data for these guys, because let me tell you, the original is a fucking mess. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one.